I think it was really important yesterday as we met with First Ministers from across the country that premiers have an opportunity to express the interests of their citizens, of their industry, of their area. Certainly, I don't blame Danielle Smith for speaking up for her industry. That's part of her job. But every single premier other than Danielle Smith then chose to put Canada first and say, but we're all part of Team Canada because what happens to any part of us happens to all of us, and we will be there to respond strongly, to fight for Canada, and to do it in a united way that makes sure that it's fair across all industries, across all regions. That was what we came together yesterday to do. I would actually like to point out to Danielle Smith that Canadians know the importance of standing up for each other. That's why Canadian taxpayers bought the Trans Mountain Pipeline Expansion, TMX, to be able to get Albertan oil to new markets. That was an investment that all Canadians made, that the Alberta government is making billions of dollars off of, because in what was a very difficult decision, the federal government, we made the decision to purchase and build and complete that pipeline. That's an example of all Canadians standing up for Alberta and getting it done. So yes, premiers should be advocating for their own industries, their own country, their own communities, but they should also put their country first, as every single premier except Danielle Smith did. Now, I could point to any number of those premiers and point out lots of moments in which they have points of disagreement with me. From Doug Ford to Scott Moe to Tim Houston to even David Eby and Wab Kinew and others. There's all sorts of disagreements we're going to have. But when push comes to shove, every single one of them are Canadians first. And yes, they're going to look out for their communities, but they also know that looking out for all of us is what everyone in their communities expect us to do. And on top of that, I think it's very clear that right now, Pierre Poilievre, who wants to be Prime Minister for all Canadians, has a choice to make. Either he stands up to fight for all Canadians alongside all premiers and the federal government that are doing that, or he chooses to stand with Danielle Smith, Kevin O'Leary, and ultimately Donald Trump.
Taylor Campbell with the Windsor Star. Mr. Prime Minister, with the threat of possible tariffs looming, what is your message to Windsor-Essex workers in the agriculture and the automotive sector who will be devastated by those?
My message to workers here in Windsor, and I spoke with them today, and I spoke with a number of union leaders as well, is that we understand how integrated the economy here is in trade with the United States, and we understand how integrated the economy in the United States is with Canada. Anything that thickens the border or imposes penalties or tariffs between our two countries will hurt Americans as well as Canadians. And our first argument is that these tariffs should not move forward. The incoming administration expressed concerns around the border that they link to tariffs, so we got to work in, first of all, demonstrating that the Canadian-US border is a source of strength for our country, that it is something that is not the source of challenges for the United States. Indeed, half of 1% of the fentanyl going into the United States come from Canada. Half of 1% of migrants into the United States come from Canada. Borders are not the issue, but still we put in over $1 billion to upgrade and strengthen our border processes to prevent the flow of illegal goods and people in both directions, because that's something that the circumstances require. But we're not just fighting for good jobs here in Windsor, Essex. We're fighting for good jobs right across the country, because if these tariffs move forward, there is no corner of Canada or of the United States that won't be negatively impacted by Donald Trump's decision to raise prices on Americans.
Rusty Thompson, AM 800 CKLW. Why do you believe you're effective right now in helping lead Canada's response to the tariff threats when the other side, the Trump administration, knows you're on your way out the door and might not ultimately be the person they're going to be dealing with and trying to sort this out?
Canadians had an election in 2021 that sent me into the Prime Minister's office once again. And every day I am here, I have a job to do in standing up for Canadians, in fighting for our economy, in creating good jobs in Canada and in the United States. And that's what we have been doing over the past number of years, and that's what I am going to continue to do. As you saw yesterday, whether it's premiers, whether it's the Business Council, the Canada-U.S. Relations Council we announced this morning, Canadians are pulling together as part of Team Canada, and my focus every single day will be to pull Canadians together as we stand for a better future and a brighter future for all of us.
Last question, sir.
Hi, Maureen from Blackburn News. Has there been any indication from the Trump administration that the border measures you introduced could be enough to stop the tariffs?
I can say that the border plan that we've put forward and the measures we put forward have been very well received by different members of the incoming American administration. What the president is going to choose to do will be entirely up to the president, but we are confident that we have demonstrated that Canada is not the source of border challenges for the United States. Around 0.5% of illegal fentanyl coming into the United States comes through Canada. The rest, 99.5%, comes in through Mexico and other places. The similar thing for migrants. We have strengthened and will continue to strengthen our border together. We have a great partnership with the United States on protecting our border. That's not the issue. We've continued to act on that and put significant money forward, but it'll be up to the American incoming administration whether or not they want to move forward with tariffs that will be raising prices for American consumers and harming one of the strongest economic relationships in the world at a time where our continent should be taking on the world, should be competing successfully with countries around the world instead of choosing to fight amongst ourselves.